Are you sick to death of YouTubers with their fancy dedicated crafting spaces? Me too. So I'm going to show you my mobile painting setup this week on Short Rest Studios. Hey there, adventurers. Welcome to another episode of Short Rest Studios. My name is Judd, and like a lot of you, I don't have a dedicated crafting setup. Anytime I want to paint some miniatures or work on some terrain, I have to take over the kitchen table, which is why I'm sitting out here today. So this week on Short Rest Studios, I'm going to give you a tour of my mobile mini painting setup. Let's get started. All right, let's start with the paints. I pretty much exclusively use Vallejo paints because I really like the thickness of these. You can thin them to any consistency you want. Some paints, like Reaper paints, are already thinned down. These aren't. I like these a lot. You can pick the paints that you want to use. There are tons of varieties out there. Just go for whatever appeals to you. I like Vallejo because they're not super expensive. I can buy kits online that contain various colors. That's actually how I built up my paint collection, was buying a couple of different kits. So here's what I have. I have Vallejo model colors, which are more true to life colors. They tend to maybe be a little more realistic hues, darker tones. They're great for earth tones, for limited skin tones, and for more true to life painting. I also have Vallejo game colors, which are more vibrant hues, deeper blacks, brighter colors. They're perfect for fantasy and sci-fi minis. I also have Vallejo game inks, and these are just fantastic colors. They're very vibrant. They work great as washes and glazes, and they're great for coloring transparent pieces too. All right, now let's take a look at my brushes. These right here are my primary brushes. No, they are absolutely not. These are crap. These come with kids' watercolor kits, that kind of thing. They're absolute junk. Don't use these. I keep them around for, sometimes using on terrain, for spreading glue, that kind of thing. Don't use these for painting miniatures, okay? Here are my primary brushes that I use a lot. These three right here are from Michaels. They are the Artist Loft Vienna series round brushes. They're synthetic brushes. They run, $5, $6 a piece. You can catch them on sale. They're really, really cheap. They are synthetic, but they're affordable, and they got pretty good tips, and they'll last a little while. And if they don't last as long as you want them to, well, hey, they're cheap. You can go buy some more. The one thing I'm going to point out to you, which is always the case with synthetic brushes, I don't know if you can see this, but the tip of this number 2 brush, which is my primary one that I've been using, is bent. And that pretty much always happens with synthetic brushes over time. And I've heard some people say you can do some things to fix it, but nothing really seems to work for me. If you get these, I would suggest, since they're so cheap, that you get a 0, a 1, and a 2. And the 2 is probably going to be your primary, painting most of your stuff, but then, eyes are really great with this number 0. Smaller details are really great with this number 1. Get a variety of sizes. That helps with more detailed miniatures. It just kind of depends on what the miniature looks like, what kind of details it has. That's how I choose which brush I'm going to use. This is a relatively new addition to my collection. This is my number 2 Rhapsody round Kolinsky sable brush. This was not cheap. I got a good deal on it. I paid around $30 for it at Jerry's Artorama. This is a great brush. It is real sable hair, which means that you can shape it. It's going to hold its tip. If you care for it well, it's going to last a long time. If you're really into the hobby, I would definitely suggest buying something like this. A lot of people use Winsor & Newton Kolinsky sable brushes, and they are very highly regarded. The only way I could get my hands on one of those was to order it online, and given my experience with this old Citadel brush, I didn't want to order any more brushes online, especially if I was going to pay this much money for one. This brush paints beautifully. I haven't used it a lot because, like I said, I just got it recently, but it paints beautifully, and this is going to be my primary brush. And if you notice, the tip on this baby is pretty fine. You could probably do some really nice detail work with this too. I'm going to try it out and let you know how it goes. But those are my primary brushes. I also have some random craft brushes that I use for terrain and that kind of thing. For dry brushing, I like to use these cheap dollar store makeup brushes, and you can see I've used this one a lot. It's getting a little flayed, but here's the truth. They cost $1.25. I'll just go buy a new one. And I have some other sizes too that I use for terrain and that kind of thing. Hey, real quick, if you're getting some value out of this video, do me a favor, hit that like button down below. That helps the video get out to a broader audience. You can also hit the battle axe underneath me to subscribe to this channel and keep up with what I'm doing on Short Rest Studios week to week. And finally, you can support this channel by visiting the Short Rest Studios shop on Etsy and buying some handmade terrain and some game accessories that we sell there. All right, next up, this really is an accessory, but it's a really, really important one. So I'm giving it its own little slot in this video. This is my Masterson's Stay Wet wet palette. This is a game changer for me. If you've never used a wet palette, it keeps the paint wet and usable for hours. I mean, sometimes days, even weeks at a time, if you do it right. It's got an airtight lid, and inside there is a piece of special paper that lays on top of a sponge that holds moisture, and it keeps your paint wet. I've had this paint in here a little bit too long, so even that won't keep it wet. It's just been in there too long, but it does work great. And it's especially good for long projects that take you more than, one sitting to do, or even if it's just one sitting. I mean, if you're sitting painting for a few hours, then you need some help keeping that paint wet. And this thing really does a great job of that. My one complaint about it is it's kind of big, doesn't fit in my cases and things, so it kind of has to stay out. And there are other options. Army Painter makes one that's a portable one that's much smaller. This one is pretty darn cheap on Amazon, and you can buy it at local craft stores and buy the accessories at craft stores like Michael's. And finally, my seemingly endless list of accessories, which I had to pare down a little bit for the sake of this video. First up is my magnifying visor, which a lot of people use a lighted magnifying glass or something along those lines, or a magnifying lamp. I just find that the magnifying visor doesn't limit me as much as a smaller round magnifier or something like that. I can just see better with it. So, and plus I like to answer the front door when strangers come knocking wearing it, which is, no, I don't do that, but it would be kind of funny if I did. And next up is my handy dandy light here. It's a really bright overhead lamp. This one actually has a magnifying glass with it, but I don't use it because it's kind of old and beat up. This was actually secondhand, given to me by a family member, but the light itself works great. It sheds plenty of light onto my work surface. And of course, here is my paint rack, which you guys got to look at. It's just a simple wood paint rack. I bought it on Amazon, which I don't like to do. I'd much rather buy it from a hobby shop or a game store, but frankly, they're so expensive, these little things at hobby shops. And I got this one on Amazon for less than $14. And it just helps me keep things organized and all together. And of course, here's the painting handle that I use. Now I have a Citadel painting handle, which is actually really nice. It works well, but I needed something to hold some larger models, and I didn't really want to go buy one. And I had this model from Loot Studios, and I printed it on my filament printer before I actually really knew what I was doing. So you can see it's kind of messed up right there, but it actually works really great. You just pop a rubber band into this, and it holds many different sizes of miniatures. And of course, it's got this handy dandy base here, so you can stand it up like that. One of the most important accessories that I have, I can't stress this enough, is the Masters brush cleaner and preserver. I use this on my synthetic brushes too. I don't know how much it actually helps those, but on that Kolinsky Sable brush, it definitely is a necessity. And this is essentially a brush soap. You wash your brushes, and then you can, once you clean them, you can put a little bit of this on and shape the tip so that it will hold its shape in the future, and it keeps those bristles in tip-top condition. And I highly recommend, if you don't have something like this, to get this. And you can get it in some pretty giant containers too, but this one's lasted me quite a while. And of course, there's storage, which is always an issue. Over here you can see my art bin case that I've got a bunch of different accessories, for crafting and painting. Also, to my left, I have a rolling cart, which I keep a lot of my supplies on to make it a little bit easier to transport everything. And of course I have the plastic cup as my water pot. I don't see any reason to go out and buy a fancy water pot. My goal eventually with all of this is to make it portable in one trip. But like anything else, it costs money to buy those storage solutions. And you know, I don't necessarily have the money to do that. But this is what I have right now. It takes me a couple of trips to get everything set up. Also, let's not forget my handy dandy cutting mat, which just keeps me from making a mess most of the time. And you can see it's been painted on quite a bit. If you have questions about anything that I'm using here, or if you have some suggestions on how I can consolidate things and make it all movable in one trip, man, that would be awesome. You can just put that in the comments below and I will for sure check it out. All right, adventurers, there is the tour of my mobile mini painting setup. Thanks again for joining me. And remember, you can support this channel by visiting my Etsy shop, Short Rest Studios, and that link is gonna be in the description below. You can also like this video, which helps it get out to a broader audience, and you can subscribe to the channel so you know what's coming. I will see you next time on Short Rest Studios.